What is going on, YouTube? PPS back. It is week 17 NFL plays. Time to go. Only 1 week left, obviously. Coming down to the wire here for playoff runs. But joined as always by my guy, Stu. How we doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Like you said, week 17 is insanely crazy, right? We don't have that much time left. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Time flies, though. You know what they say. But we've got a great slate this week. Tons of marquee matchups, a lot of huge playoff implications, just tons of spots to take advantage of in general. So very excited to get into this slate. I think it's one of the better. We've had a couple rough. I mean, last week all those weather games was kind of crazy. We've had a little bit of craziness recently, but I think this should be a pretty normal week. So I'm excited. I think we got a lot of good spots.
Yeah, for sure. And just want to make sure we get this out right away. Our NFL year to date. We're gonna go over 100 picks already for the year. So we're gonna be clearing that today. Let's take a look at the chat. We got a couple people in here to start us out. Steve, hope all is going well. Aaron, love to hear it. Hopefully you made some money with us on that. Jason in here as well. I don't have a 2-unit play. I had my first max play in about a month yesterday, and that came through almost first half cash for me. Mr. Xavier Worthy. He should have had like 200 yards. The man dropped it. But I ended up, dude, it was at 59.5.
Yeah.
And the dude had like 90. I'm like, bro, that is just way too low. Yeah, especially with Bijan. They missed like everybody there.
I was going to say 59.5 is like one catch for Worthy, okay? Those are the kind of routes he's run. So that was a good call right there. Yeah, I teased it a little bit on Twitter, the two-unit hammer. We don't have a line yet, but it's something I'm going to be very enthusiastically talking about a little bit later in the show. So I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, dude, I might be playing a couple of these ones pretty big, but unfortunately there's a lot of lines that aren't out. It sucks. Yeah. But these are huge divisional matchups. I feel like almost 3/4 of the games this week are full divisional matchups. NFC North, obviously, as a Packer guy, all 4 of them are playing each other this week. Yep. We see I saw Carolina and Tampa. You got New England and the Dolphins. Jacksonville, Houston, right? There's a lot of divisional matchups here, and I'm super, super pumped. Obviously, it's the fantasy championship. I obviously played against CeeDee Lamb last night but I had the Dallas defense, so they came through, got me a decent number. Luckily, they recovered that fumble, or else that game would have been trash with only 2 sacks and only 1 pick. But we're hanging in there. I'm supposed to lose by like 4, but I'm trusting in my boy Amon-Ra and Keenan Allen to continue to carry me to the promised land here. So did you have anybody play last night in fantasy?
You know, I made the executive decision to bench Ezekiel Elliott, fantasy league winner so far this year. Shout out Zeke for being so great all the time. But I did end up benching him for David Montgomery. So we'll see what happens. It's not that I feel great about David Montgomery. I truly wanted nothing to do with last night's game. Like, I actually thought it was kind of fun to watch at times, but like this was the first game in a long time where I really just had nothing. So it was fun to just sit back and watch. But yeah, I pulled out of Zeke right there.
Yeah, I had 0 bets, dude. Like, I might be the first primetime game that I've ever just not had anything. Even if I hated the game, I'd throw like a touchdown in there, or something. But this week, no, we didn't have anything. It was just such a disgusting game. But Josh Dobbs looked pretty good, considering all things around him and all the circumstances. But hey, it's we'll see what they can do against Jacksonville. Obviously, my last week of best ball on DraftKings as well. I had Dalton Schultz, so that was huge. At like 9% ownership. Hopefully, we can finish it off with a. I think there's like 150 of us left in this one, so we'd love to take that thing down. Obviously 25 points from your tight end is ideal.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I was on here at the trade deadline in fantasy telling everyone trade for Dalton Schultz, and I traded for him in almost every league except the one I'm still in the championship right now. So, some people didn't want to give him up, but hopefully at least a couple of you guys listened to my advice because I mean, Dak loves this guy. He loves Dalton Schultz. So I'm glad that worked out for all the people that, that traded for him out there. But yeah, it could have been a shit show yesterday, but it was actually, I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like it's 100%. Dobbs has to start again next week, right?
For sure.
Okay, I'm glad we're all on the same page. I still saw some people on Twitter kind of after that interception at the very end in garbage time saying, oh, Malik Willis maybe should start next week. I don't think so, baby. It's the Josh Dobbs only had 8 days, too. He's only been on this team. This is like the bare minimum playbook. So once they get him some actual plays, I'll have to say next week, I know people aren't going to like this one. Longest completion, whatever it is, will probably be a play for me. And if it's only like 31 or 32, which is normally the price for backup quarterbacks as opposed to like 36, I'm smashing that number because I watched Dobbs play a couple of years at Tennessee back in the day. Dude has a nice deep ball. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Zach Wilson, which people aren't going to like that either, where he could complete those crazy throws at times and then could just do nothing in the short and intermediate game. It looked like he's actually improved on that a little bit over these last couple of years as a practice squad guy. So I love that Dobbs longest completion if they post that. That's a sneak peek for next week.
Yeah, before we get into this week's stuff, is there any division winner in the NFC right now that you think Dallas can beat? Like last night, I don't think they can beat any of them. I truly don't.
I think that's an interesting one. I think Dallas does seem a little bit fraudulent, but I also don't want to fully judge Dallas on this Thursday.
I'm not either. Okay. But dude, that defense is so leaky now, bro. Like the first 8 weeks of the season, we're talking about a top 5 defense. Now these dudes are like, I don't know if they beat the Vikings in Minnesota. I don't think they beat them. I don't think because Trey Diggs is fucking fraudulent. That dude is not good, bro. That dude is not good. I don't care what anybody says. It's that he can't guard anybody, bro.
Yeah, I mean Diggs. It really depends on how physical they let him play. I mean, if they let him commit pass interference all the time, then he's legitimately elite. But when they get a little more, ticky tacky over there, he definitely can get beat in separation. But I don't know. I think Dallas, their defense can get to the quarterback, but when they're not getting to the quarterback, right, that's when we kind of see those issues arise. I see Steve said Bucks instantly. I don't know about you guys. I
don't want to play Tom Brady.
No,
they had to travel to Tampa to do it.
I'm starting to like whoever Tampa plays in their playoff game. I think I'm going to bet on them. I know like people are done. Tampa's looked terrible this season, but Brady in the playoffs at home, a team like Dallas, or what I'm really hoping happens, Philly. I'm really hoping this happens. Dallas.
They'd have to go to Philly though, bro.
Dallas can still win the division, right? If they win out.
No, they ain't winning. Dude, come on now. They're not going to win the division.
The Eagles lose both of their remaining games.
That's a bad take, dog. That's a really bad.
Travel to the Bucks.
They're not going to lose the division.
6.5 point favorites, and then get eliminated in the first round, losing outright, baby. That's my dream right there. So. Yeah, they get the first with the win. They might lose out. Okay, Saints are looking pretty good. Who knows what happens?
Fuck no, dude. That is the worst thing and I take a lot of your takes I don't take with anything, but that is bad. That was worse.
I'm dreaming about this to happen. I'm dreaming. I would be so happy. Like you really couldn't take the joy out of me if that were to happen. Probably not going to happen. Well, I'll put a disclaimer there, but whew, that would be fun.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say that. That's worse than your Tony Pollard slander, Mr. Pro Bowler. It's worse than that.
The chat's revolting against us too, right here.
No, I think they're only revolting against you. They ain't going against me. They're all saying I'm like they can't even listen to this, dude. Are you kidding me? You think the Eagles are good? I don't even care if they don't even have a quarterback. They could run Miles Sanders at quarterback and beat the Saints.
We'll see what happens, man.
In Philly, come on now. Oh
man, Lane is the best, one of the best offensive linemen in the league, right? I mean, the pressure rate when he was in versus when he was out was one of the most drastic changes we've seen. So, just something to look out for. I think Eagles probably win the division, but if they don't, they got to travel to Tampa. Tom Brady, 6.5 point favorites. 5? It's got to be 6.5 if that were to happen. So no one believes in Tampa, and then to lose outright, whoo. I'd be betting a decent amount of money if that scenario somehow happens, but it probably won't happen. So maybe we spend a little bit of time talking about some more realistic stuff this week before everyone exits the video while I'm talking right now.
Well, the Giants are going to Philly next week still. Like I think either way, like if they lose this, if somehow they find a way to lose this week, Jalen Hurts is going to freaking play. There's no way he doesn't. They have to get that. So yeah, I'm just hope, dude, if the Packers find a way to squeak in, this would be the greatest miraculous thing I've ever seen. So they had a 1% chance, and now they're only a couple things away. Hopefully, dude, let's get into this week. Packers 3.5-point favorites this week over the Vikings. Man, I was not expecting that. This is one of those like sketchy ones where it's like,
yeah,
bro, what is going on here? I mean, Kirk Cousins coming to Lambeau again. Dude does not do well in Lambeau. He does very well against the Packers in the Dome, but I'm curious about that one. That's going to probably be my plasma game. What do you got on TV there for this week?
I mean, Commanders, Bears, obviously, or not Commanders, Bears. Sorry, I cheated. I get both my answers. I was going to say Commanders, Cleveland is. I got to root for my team. It'll probably be a pretty boring game. I think Lions, Bears has got to be the big screen. I mean, that game just screams offense. One of the highest totals we've seen this week. I mean, that seems like a fun one to me. So, and I mean, hey, the Lions are actually playing for something too. So that should be a fun game.
6-point favorites is a little much for me on that Lions line. That's a fat line. Obviously, you're going to see Fields running all over the park in a dome now. Oh my gosh, that's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, there's a lot of playoff implications here, but I mean, Kansas City's a 13-point favorite. Seeing a lot of 6s. We're seeing the Niners at 9 points. If you had to pick a dog this week, who are you picking? Who's your dog of the week? Who's barking this week?
That's a good question. I mean, so have we considered the fact, this is the game I want to talk about. We'll get into it right now. Have we considered the fact that the Jags might not try today, this week? Like, I know they said they're going to try. And given the head coach's history with trying in these kind of games, it seems like that was a statement that needed to be put out there. But they didn't also guarantee. If you look at those interviews, he didn't say I'm going to play the starters all game. He said the starters are going to start. They're gonna start the game. That's how it's going to go. Like Texans, they've been playing pretty well recently. The Jags, the Jags have like a 1% chance to get the wild card. It's all about next week. The Jags need to beat the Titans next week to get into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the wild card. I think Texans could be a little bit live right there.
Dude, I think they do. I think they have to because, like, especially the way their offense is moving the ball right now. Why would you want to mess that up?
Yeah,
you know, like you don't have anything clinched up. I would want my team to be rolling in there. I would want my team rolling at full strength in there for sure. But if I had to go with a dog this week, dude, I'm really close on the Bears. I really think that they got a shot this week. But also, I mean, it's not a huge dog, but Seattle 2-point dogs at home facing off against the Jets. Both teams playing for something. Obviously, the Seattle's still trying to push for that wild card. Obviously, they're a little bit further out, but Mike White first game back, you know, like I could see a little Russ. I could see a little Geno Goat action come through for us. So I think that if I had to pick a dog, I'd probably go Seattle. It's not a huge dog, but yeah, I think that would definitely be the one I go to.
Yeah, I like the Jets in that game. I mean, Seattle's fallen off a cliff. They really have. I mean, I think, too, Lockett probably isn't going to play this week. It seems like he's trying to play his way through injury, but from everything I read, this is not an injury you come back from instantly. So without Lockett, I get really worried about how they move the ball. It just means DK Metcalf can see shell coverage, too high safety all the time. And then at that point, you have to depend on Laquan Treadwell to do something, who ran 93% of routes last week, or then Marquise Goodwin, who now has to see a corner too instead of a linebacker in the slot. Like, it's tough. I don't know. Kenneth Walker breaks off extremely large runs like once a game and then runs for 1 yard per carry on every other run. So I don't know. Seattle, they have not really impressed me much recently. And I do think the Jets defense is the best unit in this game, which is just enough for them to kind of deserve those couple points. But I see what you mean. At home, Seattle definitely has one of the bigger home field advantages left in the NFL. So it'll be a good one. I'm excited. But yeah, I guess that's true. That implies that the Jets are like 4 points better. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, on a neutral site. Yeah. Last one I want to talk about. Obviously, when we're taking bets this week, right? There's a lot of teams that don't really know if they're going to play for anything here. What is your thoughts on this Rams game? Obviously, the Rams looked fantastic last week, but 6.5-point dogs this week. Chargers clinched. I don't know how much they can move up and down. Obviously, they want to be the top wild card spot, so they can obviously get the home wild card game. But Do you expect to see him the whole time? Do you expect to see the full workload here for the Chargers guys?
That's a good question, especially with how brittle they've all been. I mean, Mike Williams, when you look at it, what's his name? Keenan Allen on the other side as well, with all the injuries so far this season. And then Austin Eckler, if you look at it over the last couple of weeks, I mean, he splits carries with Joshua Kelly almost 50-50. He's obviously the much more efficient guy. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to trust Chargers at this point, especially with the Rams. I would say that the only unit I would feel the best trusting would be the Rams pass catchers. I know people may hate that, but Baker Mayfield's out there playing for a career right now. He's putting on an audition for his future. A guy like Tutu Atwell, who I went to in primetime, I think I might be interested in going right back to. But that's really about it. The Charger side is a little bit tougher with how injury prone those guys have been all year.
Cam Akers, bro. What a bounce back here, dude. I mean, he's got an 18-plus fantasy last 3 weeks. Have him in my best ball. He sucked all year. Yeah. And now he's coming through when the lights are brightest, bro. So that might be a spot against that leaky Chargers run defense. But let's get into it. We'll get it rolling. We'll start out in the game we kind of talked about a little bit. The Carolina Panthers facing off against the Buccaneers. We both have plays in this one. Obviously, they're missing my favorite play. They're missing a lot of action in a lot of these games. So, no, we obviously like these plays, but there are some bigger ones on the slate that we're going to be going to at some point. So make sure, again, you guys follow us over on Twitter for that. Then when we drop those. So I'll kick it over to you to start us off here.
Yeah, okay. I know people won't love this play necessarily. Mike Evans, if you have him in fantasy, has burned you so far this season. If you've just played Mike Evans at all this season, you there's a chance you've been burned. So I'm not necessarily playing this on any kind of past stats. I'm looking at the matchup right here, and I'm looking at what I believe, at least, that Tampa Bay wants to do a little bit more right here. Mike Evans, longest reception, over 22.5, minus 102 half unit. I like that this is practically even money right here, and this is a number that when I was betting him last season, earlier in the year, 24, 25. He's one of the more premier longest reception guys in the league, because that's been his role for the longest time. He's a great contested catch guy. He's got the size, and he's a good deep threat. Additionally, when you look at these weapons against the Panthers defense, which has been pretty good right here, they've been, I would say, if you look at the advanced stats, DVOA, success rate, they're middle of the pack in both pass defense and rush defense. So nothing outlandish either way, but they have been a little bit better against the run. So I do think it'll be a slight pass funnel, especially because Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White have made up for the least efficient running back duo in the NFL this season, ranked dead last in almost any metric you look at. They've been terrible running the ball. They still do it a lot, but we're seeing them slowly go to a little bit more of a pass-heavy attack. And I think one interesting thing when I was looking at my research for this play, ESPN has this new tool called Open Score, and it pretty much grades separation. How is it? I mean, tons of places grade separation, obviously. If you've just watched tape so far this season, Chris Godwin gets like no separation. I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. He has a 14% open score so far this season, which is like bottom 10 percentile in the NFL with an 8 out of only 6. So while he is getting those short peppered targets, he's been really just bad on tape. And now if you look at these analytics and stuff like that, well, Mike Evans hasn't been the best. He obviously has a 49% open score, which is, 30% higher than Godwin. I thought that was interesting. It does show Evans isn't getting open as much as we'd like, but for a contested catch wide receiver, that's pretty solid. It's at least a good improvement over his teammate right there. So like I said, he hasn't been hitting this as much. But if you remember back to last week, we bet DJ Chark in this specific matchup with his longest reception against the Panthers. Obviously crushed that number. I believe he had 2 catches that went over his longest reception number. And I was talking last week about the hit rate. All the guys that hit it before, we saw Deontay Johnson the week before. I mean, I believe it was 6 or 7 straight guys that went over that number, and 2 guys in most of those games. So I love that Evans obviously gets that same good matchup right here. And I just think when we look at what this team wants to do, his targets have been way up over the last 4 weeks. He has 7 straight targets. Last week, he only had 29 yards in the game. It was disappointing. He had 1 target going into halftime. He ended the game with 8 targets. It's clear they wanted to get him more involved. They know they need to get him more involved. And guess what? For like the 80th straight week, when Tampa Bay finally actually throws the ball, they were able to move the ball. Who knows? Surprise, surprise. When you don't just run on 1st and 10 with your dead last rushing attack, then something happens. So while I don't trust NFL coaches to do the right thing, I don't trust them to be smarter, because I think if you've been betting long enough, you know that that's a mistake. from all the various coaches we've shouted out. There's just an additional factor right there that it's demonstrable proof that when they run this hurry up offense, when they get the receivers more involved, they've been better. So all those checkdowns, all those Fournette plays, all those Godwin, all those Auden plays, that should just open up the deep pass. We only need one catch, right? I don't love betting on Evans to get 60 yards because I think that means he needs 4 or 5 catches, and I just don't want to trust that. But if he's going to get 8 targets a game, if a majority of them are going to be deep targets, right? And he's going to have all these checkdowns to have the safeties worried about guys like Godwin, worried about Fournette. I think that opens up at least one play where Evans gets involved down the field. So I do think that we are getting a little bit of value. I know it's ugly. I know it's a buy low right here, but I think Evans should be able to clear this number today or this week.
Awesome. And I'm going to head over. I would rather play receptions, 100% rather play receptions, but I'm heading back to playoff Lenny, man. 10 of 14 games he's cleared this number. And obviously there was a big time in there where Rachaad White was everybody's darling. Everybody was trying to get him in Dynasty. Everybody's trying to get him there. But I know you were a truther on Fournette. Obviously, I had Rachaad White in the games, I think in 2 games. He outscored him, but it was only because of touchdowns. It wasn't because of anything else. It was just because he was scoring touchdowns. And even last week, he got in the end zone. I was very close to starting both Tampa Bay running backs. I believe I told you that before the show last week. Yep. I'm like, I might start both running backs, and it would have been fantastic. But I had Devin Singletary dropping 25 for me instead of Rachaad White. So Fournette came through, but just the pure passing volume is absurd in this offense. I know he ran the ball 20 times. So everybody talking about how he came out and said something about this foot injury. Bro, he ran the ball 20 times. And none of those are pitch outs. Those are he is running in between the tackles on these plays. He's not fast enough to get to the outside and run by you. That's what they use Rachaad White for, obviously. But he's got 500 receiving yards this year. I was very surprised to see that number. Obviously, 90 last week was a really nice pop-off there. But we're starting to see Tom Brady just get it, go. Minus 40% run block advantage this week. I expect all of this to have to be dumped down. And then obviously when that happened, you saw him go to Mike Evans with those deep balls, and that's even better, right? It gets to open up that middle underneath routes. And everybody know Fournette runs like 3 routes, right? It's up into, it's an out, it's a choice route to the middle, and then it's a screen. Those are his 3, and he still finds a way to get these. I was just very, very surprised. 3 of his last 4 games, we're seeing 7 targets or more. I think we're going to see him get another one of these pretty big games and just pure volume. I think if this game stays close, we can see Brady throw the ball 60 times in this game because it's a must-win game. There's really no point in trying to run it. This screen game is literally their run game. That's really all it is. And I like how you talked about the separation there because they're just forcing these balls to Godwin. I bet you there was 2 or 3 balls last week that should have been picked that he threw to Godwin. He needs to just get away from doing that and run those balls like 10 to 12 yards with Godwin and get out of there so Fournette can get those underneath routes, especially with Cade Otton being on a little bit of a injury bug right now. I know he can't get out of it there. So run Godwin a little deeper so you don't have 2 dudes running 4-yard routes. It's just very dumb to me to watch them try to run 2-3 guys 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. But Leonard Fournette has been fantastic. A lot more elusive in the open field in these last couple games. Hopefully he's feeling better, and it's playoff Lenny time. And I expect to see him get the bulk of the carries and the 2-minute drill offense that obviously is very, very important in this offensive scheme.
Yeah, no, this was very close to being my play as well. Actually, I was pretty neck and neck between the two. I will give a negative right here. Obviously, he didn't hit this number against Carolina earlier, and it has looked like Carolina has been pretty good against running back receiving in general. They've had some bad weeks, but also, to be honest, they haven't faced a team like Tampa Bay that is so dependent on the check down. Like, there really isn't a team with the way Tom Brady is playing at this point. I think, as Steve said, noodle arm earlier. I mean, he's pretty much playing kind of like the Drew Brees towards the end of his career where everything is just a check down. I mean, like I said, I'm really depending on that one deep ball, which we have seen the targets there. But I like this just in general because he's been so involved recently. One more thing you didn't mention too, what I believe he had a 68% snap rate last week as opposed to Rachaad, who had his low since he started been involving it in the low 30s. And Fournette was also the only guy that was out there in overtime as well. So when when push came to shove, it really showed who was around. It was playoff Lenny, right? I mean, he's got the nickname for a reason. When it gets towards the end of the season, this is when he goes into full throttle. And, not the most athletic guy in the world. He may not pass the eye test, but he's just the consistent check down for Tom Brady. Like anytime there's a hand in Tom Brady's face, where the ball's going to, because like you said, Godwin's going to be in double coverage right there with two guys in his face. He's going to first look to Godwin, nothing there, check down to Fournette, and it's a rinse and repeat, especially if we get a couple 2-minute drills in this game. He may hit this in just the 2-minute drill. We may not need any other play. So definitely like playoff Lenny right here. I mean, he's been so dependable this season. I bet this at 19 last week. I mean, they know, I guess. They caught on finally.
Yeah, I had his over 3.5 receptions at plus money last week. Just absurd, dude. It was just absurd how you're getting that at plus money. And I also wanted to kind of reference that first game because I knew it was probably going to come up. And 21-3.
Yeah.
Right? It was just nothing there, right? And I mean, they were getting constant pressure on him. Rashad White led the team in rushing in that game. But for you, I mean, he's had 9 catches for 96 yards to Mike Evans. And I think that is going to be where they have to focus their attention is on Evans, at least maybe for a little while until these dump downs start adding up. And then they obviously have to bring the guys in. But he was the only guy with over 50 yards in that game. So, and obviously you talked about J.C. Horn too. I don't know if he's going to be shadowing him, but I hope he follows Godwin around because that would really, really help this prop.
He's injured though, right? Isn't he dealing with some injury stuff, JC?
I know he came out of the game last week for a little bit, but I don't think it was anything serious.
Gotcha. I just figured something lingering. It's always there. You always want to take the positives when you can get them.
For sure. And now we're going to head from the NFC South to the NFC North. 2 plays for us in the NFC North matchups. I'll kick it over to you first to start us off. I don't see any other questions. If you guys do have questions, make sure you drop them in there, and we'll get on to plays 3 and 4.
Yep, we're going Justin Fields over 71.5 rushing yards, minus 115 on DraftKings. We see this all the way up to 73 on FanDuel. It's starting to get juiced on MGM. I think it's a number that will probably grow a little bit more. And I mean, the Lions, I think the Lions are definitively the best possible matchup for an opponent quarterback rushing so far this season. I don't even think you can possibly argue with that. And guess what? Justin Fields, he's crazy. We don't even have to just look at him. Earlier this year, Justin Fields, 13 for 170 or 147-2 against the Lions. That's obvious. We know he went crazy that game. But beyond that, too, we saw Jalen Hurts 17 for 90-1. We saw Josh Allen 10 for 78-1. We saw Daniel Jones 7 for 50-1, and we saw Geno Smith 7 for 49-1. So each one of those guys scored a touchdown. So I know I'm going to be sprinkling in that market with Fields scoring too. But that just shows you it wasn't just Fields right here crushing his rushing number. It was everyone. Pretty much any guy with legs went over their number by over 30 to 40 yards. Fields obviously doubling his number. I believe we even bet on that one. I don't know if it was a show pick, but I know we were definitely riding Fields that week. And I just think we're in store for another huge performance right here. One of the biggest reasons why is the Lions run the 3rd most man coverage in the NFL. Third most man coverage. And when we've seen Fields rush, it comes against these man coverage teams. The zone teams where they got the linebackers, we got a little bit more spy action. The safeties are kind of sitting in those spots right there. That's when it gets a little bit trickier, but he's been way better against man coverage so far this season. That's not just him. We've targeted man teams with guys like Josh Allen multiple times. They played the Dolphins. That's one example. Teams that play a lot of this man coverage stuff, it sets up better running lanes for the quarterback. So Fields, one more thing too. We've got the historic mark. He obviously can pass Lamar Jackson. It's going to be very, very hard. He pretty much needs 210, 215 rushing yards over his next 2 games because he only had 11 last week. But, Fields rushing a 65.5 on DraftKings. Ooh. Well, it wasn't 10 minutes ago when we started this show. That's I don't know. How do you feel? I don't like seeing stuff like that. I try not to I try not to let lines confuse me too much, but that's a little concerning to see a 6-point drop, especially when it's going upward. So I don't know what the deal with that is. I don't know if he logged maybe a limited practice or something like that. I don't know what's going on there, but obviously I'd play that 65.5 instead if we want to go there. But yeah, I think it's a good matchup. He obviously crushed this number earlier in the season versus the Lions. And I think, hey, it's the highest total on the slate. So I think there should be plenty of offense in that one.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember that game because I played Justin Fields obviously in fantasy that week, and he absolutely nuked me. So definitely could see him going right back and not even skipping a beat at all in that one. Especially when you have no receivers that can get. I would love to see the separation numbers on those guys because I bet you it's like half a yard, bro. Like those guys are terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
and I'll be.
But I was going to say, do you want to change the little bottom overlay and put the little DraftKings next to it so people know to go to DraftKings right now? Because we got that's some of the better line value. According to my odds checker, yeah, it's still high on everywhere else. So we gotta go to Fields right here. Or we got to go to DraftKings, guys, just so we know.
You want me to switch it over to 65 on the thing?
Yeah. But make sure to put DK. Make sure to put DK in there just so people know, because that's 9 yards better than another one. That's a great middle. I'm not going to bet the middle because I think he has 100 plus. But yeah,
for sure. Let's head to mine here. Unfortunately, I did not want to bet against my Packers here, but I'm going right back to the well here. Dalvin Cook against my Packers in Lambeau. I think Kirk Cousins struggles again this week. I truly do. I think he struggles in this one. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's open on pretty much every play. But I say this all the time. The Packers are actually good at guarding tight ends. That's their best thing they're good at. And how many of those passes last week were just so stupid checkdowns to TJ Hawkinson, right? That's not going to be there. That's not going to be there this week. I bet you if he gets 5 catches, it's for 30 yards. This is actually – I don't hype up my team very much, but that's one thing we're actually good at. So I have numbers to actually back that up. But Dalvin Cook, I hate that we don't have Gary, dude. I really hate it because anybody can run on the Packers right now. That's really their Achilles heel. The secondary's actually been very good. They've been working really well. Obviously, I don't blame them for Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. That's a very tough combo. But I don't think there is another guy that can be across from Jefferson anymore. We used to think it was Thielen. KJ Osborne has one game, but I don't think it's going to be there here. I think it's going to be double coverage on Jefferson. They're probably going to have Jair on KJ Osborne or whoever's on the other side because that's usually what ends up happening because Justin Jefferson can kind of go wherever he wants, right? Jair usually 6 to one side. But we're looking at the rushing advantage, 29% run block advantage here for Minnesota. Packers, I know they've just been getting absolutely shredded in terms of yards allowed. They're 7th overall in yards allowed on the ground so far this year, almost 5 yards a pop. I think it's 4.9 yards a pop. Dalvin Cook has always crushed the Packers. I swear every time he plays us, the dude just goes crazy. He had 90 yards in their first matchup. He had 86 in one of the other games last year, and then obviously the Packers shut him down in one as well. But he's just an Achilles heel for the Packers. He always finds a way to hit these holes. And when we see the Packers are actually pretty good against bigger running backs because they're not a very fast defense. The Packers aren't very fast. They're not like when you see these teams moving quick from the linebacker position and the safety position, they're able to get downhill. The Packers are a lot slower, but that's why they're better against these bigger backs. They're better against Zeke, but they suck against Tony Pollard. Those are the types of backs that can beat them. And Dalvin Cook has been running so much better. He's been so much more explosive. I absolutely love the volume that we've been finally seeing from this guy. Obviously, last week was not what we wanted. We wanted a little bit more from him after a couple pretty good weeks. But I think this is a perfect get right spot, especially when the Packers are going to want to pin their ears back and get pressure on Kirk Cousins because that's how you beat Kirk Cousins is you put pressure on him. So I expect Cook in the ground game to be very much involved in this one. I expect 20 carries. If we can find a carries line, I'll probably be backing that as well because that's going to be how the Vikings move the ball, at least early on in this game.
I completely agree. I really like this look. I was on Cook a couple weeks ago because I kind of felt like the market was disrespecting him, and it still kind of feels that way. I feel like he's proved over these last 5 or so weeks the volume is there. They're perfectly fine giving him, like you said, 17 to 20 carries a week right here. And now he finds himself in probably the ideal matchup, right? I believe the Packers are ranking 31st in success rate against the run so far this season. If you didn't know, that's out of 32 teams, so not very good. And yeah, I really think the biggest thing thing. You mentioned it. The linebackers, the reason they're so good against tight ends, like you said, because you've saved me a lot of money on that angle this year and just avoid the tight end against the Packers, and they're so bad against the run, is because they're coverage linebackers. They're great in coverage, right? But in the modern NFL, you need these versatile linebackers that can also get up there in the box and fight and stop the run, and that is not their specialty at all, especially when it comes to tackling. So you've got some good linebackers, right, that are good, solid against the pass, but bad against the run. And then you got safeties that now have to worry about Justin Jefferson all week long, who put up a crazy performance against them week 1. All the hype in the world is around Justin Jefferson this week. I know a lot of people are going to that narrative storyline about what Jair said about him. He called it a fluke, I believe, and said that that's not going to happen again. I understand that fires a player up, no doubt about it. But this is a big game. The players were going to be fired up either way. But even if he does have a crazy good game, there's plenty of room for Jefferson to have a crazy good game and Cook to have a great game as well. Like I said, those safeties are going to be back. The linebackers are going to be focused on Hawkinson. I think this sets up for a great match. You just can't stack the box against the Vikings. You can't do that. You can't try to eliminate Cook when they have Justin Jefferson over there. It's proven you can't do that. I think this is a great spot. Maybe even 100+. That could be a nice little sneaky 100+ and a touchdown, same game parlay kind of thing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this here. I don't think he gets that this week. I really would be very surprised if he plays next week at all. I think Madison would be obviously for next week. But you're in a division game here. You want to win. Packers talked a lot of shit after that first game, and they have to move the ball somehow, right? And I think that they're going to have to roll Cook here. One other thing I wanted to mention, only 3 tight ends this whole season have gotten over 50 receiving yards for tight ends against the Packers. Hawkinson played him with the Lions earlier in the year, but he hasn't played with them when he's been with Minnesota. So I'm curious how it's going to go. Usually it's the close your eyes and chuck it up to Jefferson thing, but I'd be very surprised if Joe Barry lets that happen again. There's so much shit been talked on Joe Barry as a Packer fan. I hear all of it. And this is a game you can't just let Jefferson go berserk. It's got to have 2 guys there. You have to have one of our better cover linebackers on Hawkinson. So it's either going to be, can KJ Osborne beat one-on-one coverage? Can Thielen beat one-on-one coverage? But I feel a lot more confident knowing that I can have Dalvin Cook beat a guy one-on-one in space. I would take that 10 times out of 10 over trying to say that KJ Osborne is going to beat one of the corners.
100%. Yeah, no. I mean, Thielen is dust at this point. And like you said, I mean, Osborne's had one good game this season. Not to say he can't put up a solid 4 for 36. That's probably a very likely outcome right there, but that's not game changing. So I agree. I like Cook a lot. I guess the only worry does come in like rest, but I don't know. I really have a hard time seeing in a divisional game where you can eliminate your arch rival from the playoffs, right? And, improve your own seeding. And plus they have a whole nother week, like you said, next week to rest their guys. So I believe this is going to be a competitive game, and I think Cook's going to have a really good one. He'll find his way on my card this week somewhere or another as well.
Perfect. I don't think we have any other questions here. Let's get through. Oh man, I don't know how to spell your touchdown guy. I'll guess. I'm sure it's not right, but
guessing will actually be more fun than if you just. I actually think that's better, so I like that.
I don't know what the line is either, but we'll get to our touchdown parlay here in a second. Let's do our recap here, and we'll get to our touchdown parlay for you guys as well.
Sounds good. We're going over to Evans, longest reception, over 22.5, minus 102. Playing that for half a unit over on go back real quick. I forgot what book it's on. Fan.
I don't have you didn't give me a book for that one.
Yeah, here, let me check real quick while we're doing this. And we'll go to the next one. And we're going over to Justin Fields. 65.5 became randomly available mid-show. I don't know if it's going to last. I have no clue why it would have dropped, but go over to DraftKings right now. It's a 9-yard difference from FanDuel. We want to take advantage of that. Justin Fields over 65.5 rushing over there.
Perfect. And I will say in that same division, Dalvin Cook over 72.5 rushing yards. I'll be going with playoff Lenny over 27.5 receiving yards. Do you want to talk about the play you were looking at playing as the 2 unit before we go to the touchdown or after?
I'll do it before. We'll do it. We'll do it whenever.
All right, I'll let you take that over right now, then.
Sounds good. So I hinted this a little bit on Twitter as a play that I'm going to absolutely hammer, and it's going to be my guy on the Washington Commanders. We're going to Curtis Samuel this week, guys. Curtis Samuel, there are no lines up. I have no clue why there are no Washington lines up, by the way. It's not like we're waiting on any.
I think Gibson, I would assume.
Yeah, but that's not enough. That's one player, right? He's not game-changing.
That'd be my only guess because I don't think there's anybody else.
And I don't think Gibson's going to play this week as well. But even if he does, I don't care too much right here. But I love Curtis Samuel, both receptions and receiving yards. I'm imagining we either get 3.5 juiced or 4.5 decent odds for receptions. And I think the yards should be in the mid-40s. That's what I believe they will be doing. And I just think it's an absolute hammer this week. When we look at the past, right? Terry McLaurin, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen on Twitter, fuck it, throw it to Terry, right? That was the mentality that this team had with Heineke under center. That is gone. When we look to
get rid of Taylor Heineke, that guy's a bum.
Okay, well, no comment on that one right there. Carson Wentz, when we look at what happened with Carson Wentz and Curtis Samuel under center, Curtis Samuel out-targeted Terry McLaurin in every single game with Carson Wentz under center. That's insane. You just paid him $70 million in the offseason. Carson Wentz came in and targeted him more in every single game so far this season. I think this sets up for another one of those spots. Terry's going to see plenty of attention on the outside, but the biggest thing right here, Washington's offensive line sucks. They need to get the ball out as soon as possible to protect Carson Wentz. That's exactly what they did in garbage time yesterday when he came in. I'm not going to look too much into garbage time like some other people are, but it's just a fact. When you're going against a team with a pass rush, with a guy like Garrett on the other side, with a team like the Browns who have some good linebackers that can get to the quarterback, we got to get the ball out as fast as possible. And that's not Terry McLaurin. That's like a 15 ADOT. Curtis Samuel is chilling with the Amon-Ra St. Brown, what's his name? Chris Godwin, 6 ADOT, right? Where he's being practically targeted 5 yards down the field every time. And you mentioned Gibson ruled out. That is actually really big when you look at Carson Wentz under center. He had a 28% targets per route run. Who was second? Curtis Samuel, 21% targets per route run. I think that's just going to increase even more with Gibson out. He's going to be the check down. They're going to need to get the ball out fast. And guess what? Carson Wentz just uses the middle of the field more than the outside. Something he's done his whole career. If you're an Eagles fan in here, I'm sure you remember those Alshon Jeffrey days, right? When Foles versus Wentz, when they were quarterback. When Wentz came in, he just never used him. He didn't throw those outside. He's scared to throw the deep ball, right? That's the biggest thing. Fuck it, throw it to Terry is the Heineke mentality. Carson Wentz he's worried of losing his job, right? He's been Mr. Pick over these last couple seasons. He makes all these dumb mistakes. He's very scared of making those mistakes. He'd much rather take the check down. I love Curtis Samuel this week. I'm glad to see Gibson was rolled out. Whenever they post those lines, I'll be absolutely hammering them. At least 2 units spread over yards and receptions. I just think it's such a good spot for him this week.
Yeah, and I blame Taylor Heineke on me losing one of my fantasy matchups because he sucks. I like Curtis Samuel way more. And when he was starting, dude, Curtis Samuel was like a top 20 receiver. He was literally a top 20 fantasy receiver when Carson Wentz was playing until he obviously got hurt / benched there. So I 100% agree with that, dude. It hurts me personally to see Samuel's production just go down the tube since then. And Dotson's routes are a little bit longer too. There's a lot more deeper routes in his arsenal in his bag too. And Curtis Samuel doesn't have that one. But I want to get to a question. We got a couple fantasy questions here. I got a question for you. Who has more raw fantasy points this week? Curtis Samuel or Brian Robinson in a PPR league?
Without Gibson, Robinson definitely does become a little bit more interesting. Those snaps probably go from 50 to probably like 65, maybe even 70, I believe, for what would be the first time of his career. That's tough. I do think he even probably steals a catch right there. I would say Robinson just out of pure volume. I mean, when you look at the Browns, they're one of the biggest run funnels in the NFL so far this season. A lot of analysts I see are expecting Washington to continue their super run-heavy game plan, but that run-heavy game plan was really built around Heineke. It was built around protecting Heineke. They did not have that same game plan earlier this season with Wentz under center, where it was all about completions. It was about those quick throws. We were betting on it here. So I think we more go back to the completions. I think we see a little bit less running, but with Gibson out, I think that just opens up more touchdown opportunity, especially. So I would have to give the slight edge right there to Robinson just because I think he has huge touchdown upside.
Yeah, 4.86 yards per carry allowed for the Browns this year. And obviously Brian Robinson Brian Robinson ran the ball 22 times last week, under 3 yards a carry, and they continued to feed him against the number one run defense in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. If he gets 22 carries this week, Duke could be pushing 100 yards in fantasy championship week. So definitely a guy that I didn't think I would be going to in one of my leagues, but he might be pushing for that playoff start in that championship. So.
Yeah, no, I could not believe those Brian Robinson rush attempts last week. I mean, it almost seemed like the strategy was like the opposing coaches would think we are so dumb to keep running. So they're not expecting us to keep running. Let's do it. Like, that's really felt like that's what was the headset. It was like
that had to be the only reason, because there was no other reason to do it.
They're running every second down is 2nd and 9. Taylor Heineke was actually having a good game last week. If you watch that game, Taylor Heineke, before the kind of dumb mistake at the very end when the game was I get that was a bad mistake. The game was already over at that point. Heineke had some of his best throws of the season, escaping pressure. That's why Washington has been good. Heineke, he's not mobile, but he has enough mobility to escape pressure. Carson Wentz holds on the ball forever. That is what I'm so worried about Washington right now. He takes sacks. He's always going to take an above average amount of sacks. And now we've got a pretty good Browns pass rush right here and a terrible Washington offensive line. So I think that helps Samuel more. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little fired up now. They did my guy Heineke wrong. He's not the best in the world. He's stupid. He makes some dumb mistakes at times. He has a noodle arm too. But guess what? He's got heart, okay? Carson Wentz doesn't have any
heart. Don't get you paid in the playoffs, dog. I could see why they do it, especially in like this type of a matchup where like you got to get that ball out. You got to be able to do it. But yeah, I think that's a close matchup. I'm glad that you picked Robinson because I'm between Robinson and Gabe Davis, and we're gonna talk about it here. Ooh. Jordan is here talking about some fantasy advice. We have DJ Chark, Gabe Davis. Tough one. I think I would obviously go Fields in the quarterback spot. It's hard for me not to, especially with the rushing upside. You have the 100-point DK type of scoring where you get 100 rushing yards easily on the table here against this Lions team. But Chark or Gabe Davis, I can't get away from Gabe Davis, dude. I can't. Stephon Diggs has been nowhere to be found these last 3 weeks. I can't imagine Cincy's going to let it happen, and I like that Cincy actually can stop the run because what happens when Josh Allen and them can get the running game going? The passes get cut in half. It's like the opposite of Tampa, right? Tampa doesn't want they'll run 3 or 4 times. If it doesn't work, they're done. We see Josh Allen; those guys ran for like 5 yards or 6 yards of carry from him, Cook, and Singletary, and they just completely decided to run the ball more than passing when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think Gabe Davis would be my choice here. I just like Amon-Ra a lot too. So it's tough, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil any more of my plays, but I was planning on betting on DJ Chark again once this week. I think DJ Chark is in store for another good game. But with that being said, even with how much I do like Chark and how good he's done for me, I think you gotta go Gabe Davis right here. I think you just have to. Like the upside he presents, especially I don't know what you're projected. You don't use those too heavily, but if you can just take a look and you see, do you need upside or you need dependability? Because I mean, Gabe Davis he could get you 0 points, right? He could theoretically, just have 5 targets. All of them are like 50-yard bombs and he catches none of them, right? They finally get Diggs more involved. But that being said, I just think Davis has got to be the play right here. He has so much upside. This guy can have 2 catches for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the kind of player he is. That's the kind of player you want to have in your fantasy championship lineup.
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring this up to you because I have Brian Robinson and Gabe Davis fighting for my flex spot. Where are you going there?
I think, do you need like the upside? I think you probably got to go to Gabe. That's the type of player I am. I'd rather play Gabe Davis, I think, in that situation. But Robinson has a much easier path to a touchdown. I mean, he was getting touchdowns, splitting red zone work with Gibson 50-50. Now he's going to have it pretty much all to himself right here. So I think for that reason, I think Robinson's a little safer to get you like 10, 11 points. I think Davis is more likely to get you like 21 points in a crazy game. But I mean, that's like I said, that's the player I am. I'd much rather kind of gamble on the stupid high floor that Davis has.
Yeah, high ceiling. Yeah. I have Keenan Allen, St. Brown as my running back. So like, it's probably the highest floors you probably could have on receivers in terms of volume and such. So we'll see. I'm leaning Robinson at the moment, but It's because I also have 3 other Bills. I have Josh Allen, Dawson Knox, and Devin Singletary. So it's like I have their whole offense.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'm going to probably only start one of those other guys with Allen there. So I do not think Christian Watson will be out. I don't think he will be out. From what I've been reading here, he's day-to-day. But in a game like this, I doubt that he's sitting in this one. Even if he's out there, though, like, you just got to make sure that like, he might just have snaps cut down. But when he's out there, he can take the top off the defense, and we don't have another guy who can do that. Lazard ain't a deep threat. I mean, we've seen him do a couple of those, but it's more of like crossing deep, not Christian Watson can literally just run by you.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Lazard has done that deeper route, but the thing is he's just way less efficient. Like, he does go deeper, but it's just not really his natural role. So I agree with that. Also, Jason touched on one thing. He said, I like Wentz anytime touchdown as a small play too. Why? I mean, I saw that too. The reason I just brought that up specifically, I saw the odds when I was looking at all the touchdown guys, and they were only plus 400. And I just had absolutely no clue why Carson Wentz would only be like plus 400. Like, maybe I even typed in the wrong name. He should be like 15-1 to get a rushing touchdown. Like, that's not something he does. Like, I'm curious. I'm more just saying this because I'm actually genuinely curious why you're saying this, because that just caught me way off guard. Like, I was looking for an under, like minus 900 as like a parlay piece for the under. I don't know. Like, I don't know why it would be that low. So I'm very curious just what you were looking at right there, what the angle is.
Yeah, I got nothing on that. This game was interesting to me because last time Denver decided they could actually play and score points.
Yeah.
And that made Mahomes have to throw the entire second half, which with a minus 13.5 side on the Chiefs, it gives me a little bit more worry. Also, if Dolchich is out, and I think there was another injury, or at least Sutton wasn't practicing, like, dude, it's weird. So I don't know. I like Mahomes this week. It's just how much volume will he really have? Because this could get out of hand real quick.
Yeah, I think that's one of those situations where I'm just kind of scared to bet on that game, to be completely honest. I mean, the Broncos, I don't know if you could actually get worse in coaching, but what are they doing here? The guy that's coaching them now has never coached an NFL game or a college game before. Like, he's some random advisor guy. Like, I don't know. I have no clue what's going on. I don't think it can get worse, but hey, it still could. We don't know what's going to happen. So I agree. I don't know. The other thing too is we have to point out, while Broncos advanced stats don't mean much, they do rank either first or one in EPA per drop back and success rate against opposing passers. So they have a good pass defense. That didn't stop Mahomes last time because he's Mahomes. He can pass on anyone. Doesn't matter if you have a good pass defense or not, especially when you have a quarterback one. Who's he going to shut down out there? You know, the only guys running outside routes against them are like Justin Watson and MVS. Go shut him down all game. Who cares? You know what I mean? Have fun. So I like Mahomes. I think you should go over that number, but betting on the Broncos, I don't think I bet on or against them in like weeks, and my life is way better because of it. So
yeah, it's just tough to trust that they can keep it close enough for Mahomes to even have to throw the ball. And if anything, maybe I just bet on Kelsey. Maybe I just bet on Kelsey. If you're gonna bet on Mahomes, because I feel like that's the way to get it done here. Jesus Christ. I thought I got rid of this person. All right, let's get to our touchdown parlay. I'll let you take it away, and put that line out there while I get rid of these bots.
Yep, sounds good. Algier. No, I'm joking. Tyler Algier. I was gonna work on getting the line 2 right here, but I don't know. It seems like they took his touchdown props off. I don't know where it is. I'll have to look for that. I saw it on Caesars at like minus 110 a minute ago. So I don't know what's going on there, but I do like him as one of my favorite guys this week. We saw him finally have that gap between him and Patterson last week. The carries have been trending upward. All the advanced numbers are looking real good. When we look at gash rate, when we look at elusiveness, when we look at broken tackles, all of those things have been very impressive. And guess what? The Falcons have actually had one of the better offensive lines all year in football. When you look at advanced numbers, matchup advantage, all that stuff, their offensive line has actually been playing pretty good. They just haven't had really anyone to kind of facilitate that. Raiders still sucks. I'm sorry to anyone. I was hoping he'd be good, but he has not been good. He's been very, very bad so far. Even a lot of his completions have just kind of been checkdowns that were taken in like 2-minute drills or whatever. So I don't have much confidence in that passing attack. I think Algier could be set once again to get like 17 to 20 carries. I just like it. He's a bruiser. He should get the red zone opportunity. And guess what? He's shown some pass catching these last couple weeks as well. So Algier is one of my favorite touchdown guys for sure. And I love the guy you're about to talk about as well right here.
Yeah, and I'm just literally going on volume here. We just talked about it. I don't know how you get away from Brian Robinson, especially now that it's officially ruled out for Gibson. That was huge news. I'm happy that we actually saw that. But I love attacking Cleveland Browns. They've allowed the 5th most rushing touchdowns so far this season at 19. Anytime in the red zone, I feel like you got to go there, right? They really don't have – if you're not going to be throwing outside and you're going to have to work the middle, I'm gonna rather run the ball with Robinson in the red zone than have to trust Carson Wentz to make a right decision in the red zone. So give me Brian Robinson. Like I said, 5th most rushing touchdowns allowed for Cleveland. And they're definitely wanting you to pass. Like that's why they're built the way they're built, right? They got a bunch of studs rushing the quarterback, but they definitely have a little bit more of a leaky run game. 4.86 yards per carry allowed, 5th most touchdowns allowed. Still a minus 15 run block advantage for them, but I don't think with the volume that they have, I don't think it's going to matter as much.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, too, I believe earlier in the season, I think when we hit one of our touchdown parlays, I think I had the Robinson side. And once again, that was one of those situations where he was in a legitimate 50-50 red zone split with Gibson. Like Gibson was out there a lot, even when he wasn't playing the regular downs. Even that kind of period of time we were like, oh, Gibson's been benched. You know, he was still getting out there annoyingly in the red zone and kind of vulturing some stuff. So now that it's pretty much just Robinson, right? No McKissick. He's been gone for a while. They do have Williams, who's been a practice squad guy for like the last 8 years. Always been a solid guy, but he's not any major competition whatsoever. So I think Robinson having this huge advantage now of no Gibson, I think this price should be like what, minus 140, minus 130, but we're
Plus
only
100.
Yeah, I was gonna say even money. So I'm definitely glad we're getting this spot right here. And I do like Robinson this week, especially like we didn't even talk about, I spent so much time talking about Samuel. That rush defense is really bad. Like it's a really bad rush defense for Cleveland right here. So I like Robinson to get it going and open up for the rest of the guys.
Yeah, and they even got gashed by a one-legged J.K. Dobbins when they have a quarterback in there who doesn't even know how to pass the football. They literally knew they were running and they still couldn't stop it. So hopefully Wentz can give you enough passes early to get him to get out of this box, and hopefully Robinson ends up with 150, 3 touchdowns, maybe a nice 50-yard touchdown reception too. Get my fantasy team a nice little boost there.
Yeah, okay. I opened up BetMGM right now where I had Algier minus 110, and it just closed on me when I'm trying to get the odds. So I don't know if there's some injury news or something going on with the Falcons right here, but it does seem like Algier was just taken off of the board as I was putting our odds together. So I don't know. Have you seen any injury report that would?
No, not based on the Falcons. I know they're both around plus 100 on their own. So
okay, well, when some more spots open up, you guys check the comments and we'll repost it with the odds or the description or something like that. But those are both of our guys, and I definitely like them a lot today.
Perfect. And we'll get to the one last question before we dip out for you guys. Jason's bringing up Trevor Lawrence. Do you think that – I don't think they bench him. I would probably lean over, in my opinion. I like Lawrence. I like the pass catchers. I like the yards after catch. That's really what I like about these guys. So I would probably pass. If you're even leaning under, I'd probably pass. But, I mean, I guess see if they say anything else about it. I have no preference on taking the under here, though.
Yeah, for me, I agree. I think I like the over, but I just don't really want to bet the over because I'm a little bit scared that in the second half they might just chill out. So I almost had Evan Ingram as one of my plays on here, but I wanted to hold back and just be a little conservative there. So I would lean the over just in the game script in general, but I am a little bit worried about, rest and that kind of stuff, avoiding injuries, even if they don't rest, right? They just come out with a super kind of conservative game plan. They get their guys going, they don't break up the momentum, but they just they settle through this game. That's what I'm real worried about. So I'm just going to stay off. I don't want to risk it either way.
Yeah, but all the rested guys, the guys that played, they played the whole time, right? They didn't rest. They rested the guys that they wanted to pre-game. So we should know if they're going to rest guys, and that obviously would change our opinion on that, but we just don't have enough information. So.
Yeah, I also want to put out, like, the Jags, like, listed their defensive starters already, like, earlier in this week. That's like if you got an injury, an NBA starting lineup the night before the game started. Like, that's not something teams do when they care about winning. So I don't know what Jacksonville is going to do, but my words of advice would just be very cautious betting on them, either over or under. I understand why you'd want to bet that angle, taking advantage of like what we've talked about of them possibly not caring. But then, you got 200, 400, 500 bucks on the line, and suddenly Trevor Lawrence just plays all game and lights him up because he's been playing fantastic football, and then you just kind of feel like a chump. So for me, that's just kind of why I'm just going to stay away, not take a side either way.
Exactly. And it's even tough to bet ETN. It's tough to bet on a lot of these guys just because you just don't know. So, Stu, what do you got for the people? We went through our recap. We got our touchdown parlay out there. We got everything ready to roll. What do you got for them?
Yeah, I mean, we both got tons of stuff coming for the rest of the week. As you can tell, the books have been a little, I think maybe they know when past the prop runs. They're a little bit scared. They don't want to, put those lines out to be hammered yet. I don't know what the situation is. Both of us will have tons of articles for the rest of the week. I'm seeing a lot of spots, like I mentioned, Samuel, a couple other guys we talked about in this show. So very excited to keep the props coming. Both of us will be over on Twitter. We've also got a great NBA slate tonight. My Wizards are playing against the Magic. Got a spot lined up there. If you're watching right now, Bull to hit a 3 tonight, baby. That's a lock against Washington right here. Just tons of good stuff coming. NBA, NFL, college football. Bulls are getting serious. I know you'll have probably some bets for that. I should as well. So just tons of great stuff. Make sure you're following over on Twitter. Both of us, I believe, are just ats are right here. And then over on Pickett Sports as well, where if you sign up, get $3 and $100, absolutely free bet tracker. I'll probably be posting some prize picks over there. I think that's what I'll do. I think because prize picks has a bunch of fun markets and stuff like that. Normally their college football lines are also very good. So if you want some of that stuff, make sure to follow us over there. But yeah, tons of great stuff.
Yep. Nope. A lot of stuff coming out. I have my NBA article that will be posted here in a second. Obviously, a lot of good games tonight. I mean, there's a lot of injuries too. So NBA lately has just been so fluid with all these injuries, rest guys, injury management, a lot of back-to-backs on this after Christmas week as well. So just a lot of stuff to look out for. If you guys make sure you guys hit the notification bell on both our Twitters. We'll try and get you guys plays right when we get them out. And obviously we'll have plays out all the rest of the weekend. So best of luck this weekend, guys. Hopefully if your team's in the playoff championship here for fantasy football, best of luck to you there. Hopefully on Monday we'll be able to talk about our championship, and we actually get to talk about a good football game on Monday night. So I'm very, very excited with the Bills and the Bengals there. So have a good one, guys. Best of luck, and let's crush week 17 here.